All right, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Monday afternoon, 2:28 p.m. That's California time here. February 10th, 2025 is the date. Got some movement coming into Southern California right now, and earlier this morning, got a sequence of events striking out here across mainly the Garlock Fault shear zone southward. Also, some swarming stirring up on the San Andreas Fault. The southern segment here got a swarm of earthquakes stirring up this afternoon and this morning, with the largest so far in this cluster, a 3.6. But if you notice here, across the area of Southern California, this is just not localized to one region. This is a broader scale event down here taking place, similar to what we've seen last year when we started to see that 5-point, I think it was a 5.4 across Bakersfield. Numerous other 4s out here. In fact, last year we had more 4.0 earthquakes in Southern California than we have had at any time since the mid-'80s. So it looks like we're starting to return back to a very active pattern out here across Southern California right now. The latest quake, 2.4. Out here in the middle of the shear zone. The shear zone right here, you got the San Andreas Fault. This little chunk of land right here tells us, when we see earthquake activity out here, lets us know that the strain is on between the plate boundary and that shear zone. And in fact, just off the shear zone northward, 3.2 coming in within seconds of the 2.4. So we got, earthquake activity ramping up back to back here, it looks like. Let me see here. So looking at this map, the China Lake Station, that's down there in Southern California. There is, it looks like a secondary quake right there. See that down here on the bottom? That 3-pointer pretty much squashes any type of data on that graph. So I was just kind of looking to see where that smaller quake is. But yeah, 3.2, that's going to be the larger signature. And then it's picking up the 2.4. A few seconds later down south here. But look at all this activity just around Southern California right now. All has to do with built-up strain along the San Andreas Fault. And that's this activity right here, a little concerning to me because it's, let me turn my phone off here. It's annoying. Every time a car drives by, it sends off a signal. So yeah, that's directly on the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault, and that area has not seen a rupture in over 300 and something years, and it's capable of producing an 8.1 earthquake. We are coming up in that time interval here, even where we should see some larger earthquake activity along the central segment and the Parkfield section here. So we're well overdue in terms of the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault, but also areas up north here. A lot of time has passed since the 1812 earthquake and the 1857 earthquake there, a couple upper 7s. But, and this is right on the San Andreas Fault. The triggering could be big out here if this continues. I'm watching this pretty closely. The latest in this cluster, a 1.8. The earthquake depths there about 4.5 miles consistent below the surface. And it'd be one thing if we were just looking at one area right here, nothing else lighting up. But looking at it, it's the whole area down here lighting up with little quakes. So a big push of earthquakes above 2.5 and above today. As you can see, we got 5 of them. The largest, a 3.6, right on the San Andreas Fault. So we got to be prepared, folks, potentially for something more realistically larger. A lot of people tend to get that false understanding that these earthquakes are good for us. They're good because they're relieving the strain out here. That's a big fat zero. Okay, that does absolutely nothing to relieve the strain that's building up out here across the plate boundary. Dr. Lucy Jones, their world-renowned seismologist, stated that live on television last year when we were having all those 4s out here. So even though we had a bunch of 4s there, it almost looked like we were going to maybe pop the San Andreas Fault there, but it didn't happen. A couple months have gone by, a little quiet activity, but today a little different story. Things are amping up back here on a broad scale, but none of these are relieving any type of strain at all. Doesn't matter if we see a bunch of 4s up here along the San Andreas Fault. Those 4s can really never relieve the strain that built up compared to a big earthquake such as an 8.1 that can take place out here. And today could be the day. You just never know. All I know is that this sign right here, when we see elevated seismic activity, that's a sign that things are quite amplified and greater in terms of the percentages of seeing a large earthquake out here. It just makes sense. When you have elevated earthquake activity all around the region, what do you think's happening here? We're getting a push of strain in this area, building up, increasing the number of earthquakes out here. So watch the San Andreas Fault. I feel this is pretty important today to keep an eye on that. Again, there's that 3-pointer. A couple of smaller quakes following that as well. You can see it just really ramping up a little bit there. Let me see here, 1423. Little small microquake following that 3-pointer. But it's just what's bugging me is the events all over the place here. It looks like it did last year when things were just, really kicking up. We didn't see a big earthquake, but one of these times here, it could be today, it may not be today, but all I know is the possibilities here, I feel, are much greater when we see this type of event. And a lot of people waiting for it, a lot of people hoping for it, right? Of course, there's going to be a lot of disaster, but think about this. After the big one goes away, well, we're pretty well safe again for, a couple more hundreds of years until enough strain builds up again. But like I say, a 5, even a 6-pointer is not even nearly enough to relieve strain out here along a major area such as the San Andreas Fault. So after the fact, after we do get the big one, then we got a little time period before enough strain builds up for another big earthquake, if that makes sense. But that's just one area in Southern California that is potentially overdue. We have, look over here. I was just going to talk about that, and that is lighting up right now. That is the Puente Hills, Puente Hills thrust fault. This area last year had a number of earthquakes on it, and this specific fault system that runs underneath downtown Los Angeles is capable of a 7.5 earthquake. And it's every, I think they said every 3,000 to 4,000 years. And from what I've been reading, the last one was around that time period. So this is very, even this fault system right here, the Puente Hills thrust fault, is capable of producing a 7.5, and the intervals we're coming up upon. And this is lighting up right now as well, similar to what we seen last year. And that goes directly underneath Los Angeles. 7.5 on that specific fault system there would be, let me turn the bells off. I don't know how many blasted through there. Sometimes I forget, but look at wow. That's another story. That's the Santorini volcano, but 7.5 underneath this area would be more damaging here for Los Angeles area, even more so than an 8.1 over here across the San Andreas Fault. Even though an 8.1 could, stronger earthquake, right? But proximity. San Andreas Fault sits well off here to the east of Los Angeles. It would still do some damage, no doubt. But a 7.5 directly underneath Los Angeles due to proximity here, location, it's all about location, right? Would do way more damage. So we got to watch that fault system as well. So it's not only the San Andreas Fault we're overdue on, Puente Hills thrust fault, maybe the Malibu Coast Fault. That's one area that hasn't lit up yet today. So watch that. That was active as well during the events last year when we had all the areas like this lighten up. So wouldn't doubt if we see a Malibu earthquake here soon showing up on that fault system. And, not to mention many other areas around here that have enough strain. But I think the big one that we got to watch is the San Andreas Fault here. And it's just, it makes sense here when this area is pressurized. We get back building across various areas of the Pacific Plate right here. You can kind of see the fault systems here, secondary, and so on to the San Andreas Fault. Obviously, these fractures are due to the strain built up against that plate boundary. And then when we see inland activity as well, that's just another sign that strain is building up in this region and pretty much encircling, and just, it's a little scary to see this much activity stirring up here today. So I felt like I needed to jump on here real quick and cover this. Not to mention that movement north of the Garlock Fault shear zone. Prior to that, there's some activity there on the Garlock Fault shear zone there earlier this afternoon. So if you look at all the earthquakes that have been bumping in here since early this morning, it's an eye-opener out here. And again, none of these are going to relieve any stress out here. That's a false assumption that anyone, you talk to any geologist, seismologist, that is a false, very false belief. So things are lighting up. Northern California, not so much, but that's a similar pattern here to what we had last year. I'm going to take a screen capture of that real quick while it's lighting up. That'd be my thumbnail here for this video update. And again, if you look, let's go back here. We're going to go 4.0. Why did we see like 20 4.0 earthquakes last year, I think? I'm going to go a little ways back to 1980 and see, and kind of show you guys what I was talking about, having more 4-pointers last year than any time since the mid-80s. So custom, let's draw a little area out here in Southern California. We're going to include roughly about here, southward. I guess that'll work. I don't want to go too far over. That's not including the Bay Area. So, yeah, it's probably going to be a crazy number. Let's see here how many earthquakes are going to pop off. Probably a bunch. There we go. So this is just 4.0 and above since 1980. 1,247 earthquakes. Ooh, that's a lot. So I want to look here. Look at last year. In fact, our last 4-pointer was back in October, of last year. 4.5 stovepipe wells. I can do it. Over here across the eastern side, around Death Valley. But if you look at here, look at how many we're going to count. 1, 2, 3, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Wow, we're beyond the 20. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Oh my gosh, it was a lot more than 30, 31. Okay, so we had 31 earthquakes of 4.0 and above last year. That is a big, staggering number. And comparable to other years, that is very above average, so to speak. Yes, we've seen a number of 4s and whatnot throughout the area, but we're not associating those 4s with strictly a main sequence event. Such as the Ridgecrest sequence of events out here, where we've seen that 6.7 and then the 7.1 one day later. Of course, there's going to be more 4s in here, right? Because of the largeness of that main quake. But we're showing this as a whole here in terms of 4s, but kind of excluding out those other events with the main earthquake sequence, if that makes sense. So 4s on a regional scale have been elevated last year compared to any time since the mid-'80s. And even Dr. Lucy Jones acknowledged that. That's when she was all over TV there, and a couple news anchors asked her if these are kind of taking us away from the big one. These little quakes, are they relieving strain, the 4-pointers? And she had this look on her face of, I can see it now. She was just like, she's afraid not. That's not the case. If anything, it's amplifying the potential for a bigger one out here when we see elevated seismic activity here like this. So, yeah, 7.3, 1992, that was off the San Andreas Fault. They're not associated with the San Andreas Fault, but obviously a result of the San Andreas Fault strain, right? That's just off this bend area there into the, I don't remember exactly which fault system that struck on, but wasn't on the San Andreas Fault. Neither was the 7.1 1999 earthquake, Hector Mine earthquake. But, it's Ridgecrest, Nothing to do with the San Andreas fault either. That was the Little Lake fault, I believe. But let's see here. Trying to see, aside from the Ridgecrest earthquake, when the last one was a big one, it's been a little while. Ridgecrest there took the top chart there for recent activity, but that again, that's off of the San Andreas fault, considerable distance. Look at that cluster over here across Simi Valley, San Fernando area. Bunch of fives and stuff like that. That was a lot of that's a result of the 6.7 Northridge earthquake back in 1994. But yeah, basically what I'm saying here is that things are quite on the elevated side today, and no fours as of yet. Largest magnitude 3.6 in the sequence of events here on the San Andreas fault, but amplified. Things are amplified right now, and that's when we need to be on guard, because these could easily be some type of foreshocks to something much bigger out here, or maybe one of these quakes on the San Andreas fault is going to trigger it. You know, it might be the a little half a straw that breaks a camel's back or something like that. It's definitely catching my attention there today. Still got a bunch of movement over here across the Santorini volcano. 5.2 earthquake, the second largest in the sequence of events out here across the Santorini area. Still got that migration down here, although the majority of the earthquakes have been up north here, which is interesting, a little bit further spread out. Yesterday and the past couple days, a lot of migration southward towards the Santorini volcano area, which they have been seeing a little bit of uplift here across the eastern side of the caldera, even some within that cone area, so that's an obvious sign of swelling. Just kind of watching this one. I don't know where it's leading to. You know, it's possible it could be. Which earthquake was that? 6 minutes ago. So that's a 3.4 showing up there. Kind of northward. It's interesting that we're getting this northward migration here. Well, that was kind of out of the swarm area, but you know, over the past few days, notice that migration down south, more centered right around here now. But it will be interesting to see what happens. Either way, volcanic or just plain old earthquake activity, it's continuing. If we look at the seismograph station there, let's see. That's going to be, I believe this one, yeah. We are still rocking and rolling. Last night, a little bit of calmness, quietness. There you can see the seismograph lines in the background. But since then, look at all those fours, including that 5-pointer. One of those is a 5-pointer. I think it was that, maybe the red one here. But things are, they're still very active out there across that area. So anything could happen at any given time. A lot of escalation has taken place here in the last week with this ongoing activity. Just a waiting game. But for now, I need to keep an eye here on Southern California. I want to put out this secondary update video just because of the elevated movement taking place here right now. And it's a broad-scale event, not just localized here to one little area, say around Ridgecrest or down here on the San Jacinto Fault Zone. It's noticeable across this entire area. I'll be back here a little bit later on this evening, folks. I'll be off here on the side watching the live stream, but I want to get this quick video up here and just to make everyone aware that things are on the uptick. And I know a lot of people think that nothing's going to happen, but what if it does? What if today is the day? May not be, no guarantee, but the chances go up here. The chances go up as in, you know, this activity increases out here. And specifically on the San Andreas Fault. You know, that's what are we up to now? 15 earthquakes? No main quake. Someone asked me what is a definition of an earthquake swarm. Well, it's a series of events here, earthquakes, in a pretty much a confined area that is not associated with the main earthquake sequence there. As far as like, say there was a 4.0 that triggered these events here, then I could consider maybe some of these aftershocks, but it didn't start off like that. Started off with a bunch of ones. The threes were just in the middle of it all. So these could all be foreshocks to an 8.1. You know, we could see a big red circle here today. You just never know. So just be on guard. A lot going on here in Southern California. I'll continue to monitor it and report back on anything that changes out there. In the meantime, if you don't have it here in California, download the MyShake app. It's an early alert notification system for your phone, your Android, Apple, whatever you use. I'm a big Apple fan. I always have been. I like the security on it, and it's that's just me, you know. Some people like white milk, some people like chocolate milk. It's just, that's how it is. But download the MyShake app, and it's well worth it. It gives you a notification about 20 seconds for me anyway. Looks like we got a couple more fives coming into that area of hold on a second here. Just got a notification there of some more fives coming in just as we speak. I'm going to go check out the EMSC model and see what we got. A 5.0 in Greece. That one is way over here. Where's the earthquake list? 3.7, 3.7. Yeah, see, there was a 5.1 there. That was that big signature on the seismograph station there. Where'd it go? Oh, it's gone now. But it's back over there, that 5-pointer. These guys reporting it as a 4.7. EMSC reporting that as a 5-pointer right here. But there was also another 5-pointer away from this area in Greece. Either way, folks, things are still building up out here. Have a good day. We will catch you guys out here a little bit later. Stay safe out there.